Well, hey there. If you're a capital raiser, a syndicator, fund manager, you know about the power of referrals for getting new investors from your existing investor list. What you might not know is that I've read that referrals are 5 times faster to get on as your investors and tend to invest twice as much compared to meeting somebody new and starting the relationship from scratch. So it happens 5 times faster, and you tend to raise double what you would from a cold investor. So why don't more of us do this? Well, a lot of syndicators and fund managers really get the whole idea of getting referrals, but they don't have a strategic approach to doing that. So they're kind of hit and miss when it comes to soliciting referrals, warm introductions from their existing investors. They might be because they kind of feel it's kind of icky to ask for this, or they're kind of robotic in the way that they ask for it, or they kind of act like a realtor where they kind of just throw out this thing. Your referrals are always appreciated, but they don't really have a good way of going about to get these. So I'm going to suggest that a podcast, yes, a podcast, is a great way to get referrals and warm introductions. Why is that? Well, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I really highly recommend that if you're starting a podcast and you wanted to raise capital, that you focus on and you start with interviewing your existing and past investors. And this is one of the 3 R's that you can get from doing that. And 3 R's, just a quick reminder, are number one, you can get great reviews and testimonials from your existing investors about what you're doing. Number two, you can get re-ups or reinvestments from your existing investors when you connect with them and you interview them on a podcast. And the third R is this, exactly this, referrals. It's a great way to get referrals. So how do we do this? Well, it's quite simple, really. So, again, a reminder, big picture, you zoom out. What you want to do when you're interviewing one of your existing or past investors is obviously you invite them to be a guest on your show, you get them booked in, they understand what's in it for them for being a guest on your show. And right when you're first kind of reconnecting with them on Zoom or however you're doing the interview, you ask them if they wouldn't mind sticking around for a few minutes after the interview, just because you want to do a quick little review of the past or the current investment that they're doing with you. And you want to do that at the end of the interview. So they'll say, yeah, great, no problem. And again, you just do your homework ahead of time. You make sure that you pull out what you've done for them with that past investment. You remind them how well they've done with you, how much they invested, when they invested, what the disbursements have been in the meantime, how much their total return on investment has been so far or during that investment. So you just kind of give them a snapshot, remind them of how things have been going. And then part of your talk at the end of this interview, when you've done this review, is you say, hey, John, you always have first dibs on any new deals that be coming down the pipeline. But as you know, quite often we're needing to raise millions of dollars for these projects. So do you happen to know, well, actually, there's two ways you can get referrals, depending on how well you know the person, how things are going. So the number one way is the direct way. So, hey, John, do you know anybody else, any of your friends and acquaintances who might enjoy these kind of returns that we'd be getting for you, might kind of enjoy this kind of an investment opportunity, want the security and the stability of a real estate investment? Do you know anybody, does anybody else come to mind that might be interested in this? And then let them think and say, maybe one or two people. So give them kind of a parameter. And there's a pretty good chance they'll come up with a name or two. And then you want to get a warm introduction to those people. You want John to, reach out, make it super easy for them. I think you probably watched another video around, that I've done around making referrals easy. Um, but make it super simple for them. So that's way number one. The second way is a little bit indirect. So if you don't want to, directly ask John to refer an investor to you, well, guess what? You've just done a great interview with John. So it could be something like this. Well, John, hey, that was a great interview. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Now, hey, by the way, do you happen to have any other business friends or professional friends who might enjoy being on the show, being interviewed on the show, just like I did with you? and getting this, exposure. And we're going to create some social media content for you from this interview. Do you know anybody else who'd be a good guest for the show? Now, that's a much easier referral for John to do versus referring one of his friends or associates as a potential investor. So chances are you can get 2, 3, 4, 5 introductions that way because he's indirectly providing them with value by being a guest on your show, right? Where it's all about leading with the giving hand. So again, if you're looking for a very classy, strategic way to consistently get good referrals, because you understand now that referrals are 5 times faster to convert into capital and are statistically going to invest twice as much as a cold lead, then consider using your podcast as a mechanism for getting those consistent referrals. All right. So that's my training for today. And where am I today? Well, I am in a very, very cool place called Digby Pines Resort in beautiful Nova Scotia, Canada. And my first time here, and this is just such a cool place. So the whole town of Digby has a fascinating history. It really was kind of started in the late 1700s by what were they called? They were uh, imperialists. Anyhow, it was right after the American Revolution, and a lot of the folks that were loyal to the king and to the royalty in England left the United States and moved to Canada. And this was one of the places a whole bunch of them immigrated to and started a community here. Eventually became known as Digby, and it is known as the scallops capital of the world. Yeah, this little town of 2,000 people is world famous for their scallops. In fact, the scallops are called Digby scallops. They're big, beautiful scallops. So if you're a fan of scallops, this is a good place to be. And I am in a really interesting place. This is the Digby Pines Golf and Spa, Golf Resort and Spa. And this place, let's see if I can show it to you a little bit better. This place is a beautiful old, what's called, I believe it's either a CP or a CN, was a CP or CN hotel, Canadian Pacific or Canadian National Railway Hotel. And it was built, I think, in the late 1920s. I think it was launched in 1929, which was the same year the Great Depression happened. So maybe not a good year for them to start. But it is a beautiful, classic old resort. And it's got a whole bunch of beautiful old rustic cabins. Not all that rustic, actually. They're actually nicest cottages I've seen for a resort, but just a beautiful place where the rich folks used to come and mix and mingle and hang out. And they'd come here by railway. And then there's a ferry that goes from here to St. John's, New Brunswick. So it's just a very, very cool place. And this is part of my tour through Nova Scotia. And I'll share a few clips of some of the other cool places that have been on this trip. All right, take care. Talk to you soon. All right, so here's a much better view of the Digby Pines Resort. Again, this beautiful old CP Rail Hotel that they've just maintained amazingly. It is so cool on the inside, very, very classy. They've got a world-class restaurant here with an award-winning chef. So again, from the late 1920s. But it does kind of have a little bit of that creepy feel, almost like that old, it's not abandoned, but that abandoned resort. If you've ever watched the movie The Shining, it kind of has that vibe, and I think it was kind of the same vintage, but very cool place. Speaking of the Blue Nose, there's the Blue Nose 2 right there, and the image of the Blue Nose on the Canadian dime. Take you for a little tour around the beautiful buildings of Lunenburg. And that over there is the, where are we? The memorial to the fishermen that have gone down here. Mind-boggling number of them. I thought it was a war memorial at the beginning, but it's hundreds and hundreds of fishermen that have been lost from here across the centuries. So, very dangerous occupation. But anyhow, Lunenburg is absolutely gorgeous. I can see why it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. I'm going to go check out the museum now. All right, so today we're at Fort Anne in beautiful Annapolis Royale, Nova Scotia. This is the oldest heritage site. It was the first park, like heritage site, protected in Canada way back in 1917. Anyhow, that's the one remaining original building that was the officers' quarters. And this is where the battle for Nova Scotia between the British and the French went on for many, 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 many years, till the British kind of finally won out. And this is where a lot of Acadians were expelled and dispersed all over the place. A good chunk of them ended up in Louisiana and New Orleans, and that's where the Cajun culture comes from. 10,000 of these folks getting expelled in the 1700s. Anyhow, fascinating stuff. Beautiful place. Cloudy day, but pretty nice. Take a look at the bay over there. Fort and the town in the background. Absolutely gorgeous. See ya.
This episode is brought to you by the Success in Motion podcast, hosted by Michael Bishop. Hear inspiring stories from high performers who are creating momentum in business, leadership, and life. Listen now at successinmotionpodcast.com.